We've got exactly what the Rams need to do to knock out the 14-win Minnesota Vikings in the wild card round. That's coming up next on a playoff edition of Locked On Rams.
You are Locked On Rams, your daily Los Angeles Rams podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Ramley, and welcome to another episode of Locked On Rams, your daily podcast covering your Los Angeles Rams. Free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Locked On Rams, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We're also available over on YouTube, so if you haven't yet, do us a huge favor and subscribe to the fastest growing Rams YouTube channel. Hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, hit that like button, and drop your score predictions down below for the Rams-Vikings wildcard round matchup tonight. My name is Doug McCain. You can follow me on X and Instagram at DMAC_LA. I've been covering LA sports for over a decade, 24/7 sports, Bleacher Report, Dodgers Nation, some NFL radio for Westwood One. And of course, I'm always joined by the Rams pre-half and post-game show host for the Rams flagship radio station, ESPN 710 LA. He's in his ninth season covering your Los Angeles Rams, the People's Champ, Mr. Travis Rogers. You can follow him on X at Travis Rogers. And on today's episode, keys to victory, some of our concerns, and we got some predictions as well. But, of course, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets if you win or lose your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. All right, Travis, so today's the day. Playoff football is here. Right. Over the weekend, some clunkers. The last one was a pretty good game, came out of the fourth quarter, Commanders, Buccaneers. But, yeah, of course, this is a team that's faced a lot of adversity, starting 1-4, then making the playoffs, and now they have to start their playoff run, essentially, which is a home road game in Glendale, Arizona, due to, of course, the wildfires here in Southern California.
Yeah, it's a weird deal, right? It's the Monday night game, which is kind of awkward just in the sense of the way the playoff games go. And like you mentioned, Doug, with everything that's going on here in LA, the game being moved to Arizona, and whatever home field advantage the Rams might have had at SoFi is gone. I actually know a couple of people that are making the trip out to Phoenix to go watch their team play, and they're excited to go do it. But it's going to be a strange situation, an understandable situation for sure, considering everything that has happened here, but a strange situation nonetheless. You worry about, what preparation time, distractions, all of these things. And again, let me just preface this by saying, obviously, that's not nearly as important as everything else that has been going on. But you got to wonder if it's going to affect the way that they got ready to play this game tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. And, of course, back in 2018, it was the emotional game against the Chiefs in Monday Night Football where the Rams won 54-51. Of remind me a little bit of that. But hopefully this is a game where they're going to be even more motivated than ever, or just to kind of bring one home for the city of Los Angeles. Now, I think that's a little bit of a factor.
Yeah, I do too. I guess if you're looking for a silver lining here, maybe there is a motivation, an inspiration, some sort of dedication to the people that have lost so much, and unfortunately, there's been a number of deaths in these fires, and obviously everybody's concentration is elsewhere. But you hope for a few hours on Monday night in Arizona, everybody can kind of get on the same page and give the city and give Rams fans something to get excited about. So. Hopefully so. It's going to be, interesting is the only word I can come up with, because I don't want to say exciting, because it's not exciting that they're under these circumstances. But it is interesting that how have they been able to prepare? I was just, reading about how they got the Cardinals helped them relocate all of their staff, everything that goes along with it, their IT, their strength, their training, all of this stuff that they had to relocate to Arizona to get ready for this. And just the logistical endeavor involved in something like this, it's very, very complicated, and it would be complicated under good circumstances, and these are far from good circumstances. So it should be interesting tonight. Really, nothing would surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me at all if they went out there and looked great, because Sean McVay's a great coach, and they're all professionals and they're ready to go. And I'll be honest too, D-Mac, it wouldn't surprise me at all if they went out there and looked a little discombobulated, considering what everybody in the city has been going through for the last almost a week now.
Yeah, and I think that that is something that really is a jumping off point to dive deeper into this game, because one of the key differences between these two teams is how they perform in the first quarter and how
Mhm.
well playing in this stadium that, yes, they're familiar with, but it is not SoFi Stadium and it is a playoff game. It feels very neutral site, almost like these bowl games, these semifinal games that
Yeah.
we've watched in college football over the last week. And I think how that applies to the first quarter is going to be very interesting. The Vikings, they rank second in the National Football League with 6.4 first quarter points on the season. The Rams, they're 31st, 1.8 points in the first quarter. So I think you need Sean McVay to come out with a really good game plan, a really good script to follow. And I think that's kind of one of the biggest keys early into kind of establishing that this is a home game for the Rams, is to go out there and limit points and score some points early on and get that momentum to start this one.
Yeah, I think you're right, and I think you go back to that first game that they played against each other earlier in the season. I believe I'm going by memory. I think it was week 8, where the Rams did give up a touchdown. You know, the Minnesota comes out to take the ball, they go right down, they score a touchdown, but something unusual happened. The Rams responded. They went right back and scored another one. The Vikings get the ball back second time. They go boom, right down. They score a touchdown. The Rams get the ball back. They start driving again. The quarter ends, but they finished that drive with a touchdown. The first 4 possessions of that game all ended with touchdowns. The Rams were able to kind of hold serve, for lack of a better description. I think they may have to do something tonight because, look, Sean McVay is a great coach. You've got a veteran quarterback, you've got some veteran players in some important spots along the way. But I think it's vitally important that they open up and play well from the beginning, because if this thing starts to get away from them, I wouldn't be surprised if it spirals at that point, because it just the culmination of an awful week and everything that goes along with it. It would be pretty easy to say, it just wasn't meant to be, considering everything. But if you stick around and all of a sudden you get to dig in, I think we could get a very positive result.
Totally agreed. I think scoring early, getting momentum early, that leads to a more balanced offensive attack. And that's what you want to see for the Rams. You don't want to get them into a situation where they're going to have to just pass throughout the entire game to try to stay in this one, to try to come back. You want to see a big game from Kyren Williams in the running game. And I think establishing that early on and getting some momentum early on definitely helps that and kind of settle things down for a Rams team that has really dealt a lot for this past week. Now,
Sure.
another big key before you get to the break is pressuring Sam Darnold. I mean, I think it can't really be overemphasized, the difference with Sam Darnold for when he's pressured, when he's not pressured. We saw that in the first match, and we saw that against the Lions in their last loss of the season. And 80% of Sam Darnold's passing yards this year have come when he has over 2.5 seconds to throw. And when he doesn't have that time to throw, when you can get him out of structure, when you can pressure him, you can have a lot more success against him, and success against this dynamic receiving core with Justin Jefferson, who's still one of, if not the best in the league. And you have Jordan Addison, you got TJ Hawkinson, who's back in the mix as well. So getting to Sam Darnold, especially with your front four, where you can throw guys back into coverage and stay zone and kind of bend but don't break like Chris Shield likes to run, that's one of the biggest keys to neutralizing this Vikings offense.
Yeah, it kind of goes back to football 101, right? Like, protect your quarterback and get to theirs. I think that's an incredibly important part of this. I still think when you look at this Vikings team, despite their record being great, them missing the number 1 overall seed by a game, right? That they're in this game because they lost the very last game of the season. I'm not trying to take anything away from the success that they've had this year. They've had a great year, but this comes down, in my opinion, to Sam Darnold and whether or not you get the Sam Darnold you saw for most of the year, or do you get the Sam Darnold you saw in Detroit a week ago Sunday. Because if you can get that guy, and you're right, if you can pressure him, it's the one thing that can kind of neutralize Jefferson and Addison and Hawkinson and the guys that you mentioned, that if he's got to make decisions quickly, we've seen time and time again, that's not Sam Darnold's cup of tea. When you give him a little time, you give him that extra half a second, that extra beat to kind of wait, he can be a pretty good quarterback. But if you make him speed up, I think the Rams have a really good chance of walking out of this game tonight with a win. Now, if he's got time to set his feet and make decisions on his schedule, they're going to have a long day. But I'm optimistic that Jared Verse and the rest of the crew are going to get to him and make him make quick decisions, and that'll lead to a lot of success for the Rams defense.
Yeah, and one thing to look forward to is Jared Verse. I mean, this is
Yeah.
a perfect opportunity for rookie Jared Verse to really continue to make himself a household name at the NFL level. We saw in the first matchup, the second half, particularly, him really go to work and create those pressures. And Cam Robinson for the Vikings, he's allowed the most pressures among any tackles in the National Football League in the second half of the season, the most hurries as well. And Sam Darnold's not a guy that's going to just check the ball down. He has the sixth lowest check down rate in the league. He's also 8 for 38 in those situations where you're pressuring him outside of the pocket. So that really is the recipe right there. You pressure Sam Darnold, you make things uncomfortable for him. You give your defense the best chance to stop what could be an explosive Vikings offense. So big key to victory there. But coming up next, we're going to break down more keys, more concerns for the Rams Vikings. Wild card round, the playoffs is here, baby. It's coming up next on Locked On Rams.
Growing your small business in 2025 comes down to how well you can hire. And let's face it, better hires start with smarter insights. That's where LinkedIn comes in. With the strongest hiring data available, LinkedIn helps you identify the right candidates, giving you the confidence to make the best decisions for your business. I've used LinkedIn Jobs, and I can tell you it is a game changer when it comes to hiring the right fit. Small businesses are wearing a lot of hats, so every hire, absolutely crucial. LinkedIn gets that. That's why they connect you with the best candidates using data you won't find anywhere else. From unique skills and interests to the connections you share, LinkedIn helps you find the right person for the job. In fact, 72% of small businesses say LinkedIn has helped them find high-quality candidates. You know from experience how important it is to make the right hiring decisions. Having access to insights like what skills candidates have or how they're connected to your network, that helps you feel confident when you pull the trigger. Hire smarter this year and find your next great hire on LinkedIn. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnfl to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Also, right, another game tonight. There's NBA basketball tonight. The Lakers and the Clippers are both back into it. Prize Picks, right? It is playoff time. And if you're like me, you want to make the most of the final weeks of the football season. That's where Prize Picks comes in. So if you love football and you want a chance to win real money while watching the games, Prize Picks is the place for you. It's the best way to turn your sports opinions into cash with daily fantasy player projections. With Prize Picks, you simply pick more or less on player stats like total passing yards or rushing touchdowns, and for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your money. You can make your picks in less than 60 seconds, and whether you're looking for a flex play to boost your payout or want to cash out quickly, Prize Picks has got you covered. With over 10 million members and billions in winnings, it's clear that people are loving this platform. And here is a special offer for Locked On NFL listeners. Download the app today and use the code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's Prize Picks, right? Put that Prize Picks app, use that code LOCKEDONNFL to get your $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Download the app today. Locked On code NFL. Locked On NFL to get $50 instantly after you play that first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. Run your game.
And we're off and running here on Locked On Rams. Thank you for making Locked On Rams your first listen every single weekday. Free and available wherever you get your podcast. Locked On Rams, part of Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. Arcade Travis here in our second segment. Before we get into more keys and concerns, the bulletin board material is there thanks to Dan Campbell. If you go inside the Rams locker room, it's a big thing that says, "I'll see you in 2 weeks." The Rams put it up. They also have a Lombardi trophy in the back of the locker room that says "Football Heaven." So a lot of motivating factors, and certainly Dan Campbell providing that bulletin board material. So you'll love to see him utilizing that.
Yeah, except for now, Dan Campbell doesn't get that. Dan Campbell gets the Commanders, right? The Washington Commanders kind of threw a wrinkle in the whole thing, and now the winner of this one tonight goes to Philadelphia. So Dan Campbell, as they say, did not speak it into existence. I certainly understand the sentiment that the Rams can use as motivation. And like I told you last week when we were talking, D-Mac, I'm not a big bulletin board guy. I'm not a big, what they said, what about me guy. That one kind of landed different for me. That was an interesting one that was kind of like, really? You think, okay, let's see what happens next. Now, they got to get through Minnesota. The Philadelphia thing is a very, very tough putt, to say the least. It's another team that they saw it in the regular season. They got run over, so that could be a problem if they get there. But I don't think motivation is going to be a problem. I think they're going to be fully motivated. I think the variable, the emotional variable in this is not motivation. It's distraction. It's the inability to get prepared in the way that you would need to get prepared. And again, I know I'm repeating myself, not just in this pod, but the everydayers will know I am a Sean McVay, stan. I think he is as good at this as anybody that's doing it right now. What happened in Los Angeles over the last 4 or 5 days is just devastating, and to be distracted by it. And I know a lot of players were probably worried about their families and friends. And it's not just the players and the coaches, it's staff. It's just so many people involved in this that have been preoccupied with something that should be, occupying their attention, and whether or not they can get focused on the task at hand. I think that's what we're going to find out tonight a little after 5:00.
No doubt about it. I think that's 100% kind of one of those things as well with Sean McVay and how it relates to kind of the motivating factors for this team. And yes, if the Rams win, they'll head to Philly, and I think that matchup for the Lions would have to wait. But how it also applies to the Vikings as well. But I do think that you're grabbing onto anything, and I think that it's good to, even though you are a division winner, even though this is technically a home game, that they are the underdogs. They truly are the underdogs, and that's something that they're leaning into all the way in this playoff run. I think that should serve them well if you use it. Now, as far as other keys to this one, I think one of the biggest things I'm looking for early on is how is this Rams team handling the blitzes from Brian Flores. We know that blitz heavy scheme is something that he's going to implement. And one of the biggest reasons why they won in week 8 and why Stafford had one of his best games of the season was because he handled that blitz so well. He was 10 for 13 against the blitz for 128 yards. He needs to be sharp. He needs to get the ball out when he sees and identifies it. And those receivers, they need to really be a little more dynamic. I mean, Demarcus Robinson hasn't had a catch in a while. Puka Nacua has basically been the offense. The Rams offense has been a Puka Nacua and Kyron Williams show for a long time. And I think if you really are going to have a seriously long run, guys like Cooper Kupp and Demarcus Robinson and Tyler Higbee and other parts of this offense need to really establish themselves as another weapon.
Maybe they should start reading books on the sidelines. Maybe
my God.
Maybe just a chapter here or there between series.
I want to see that book's Amazon numbers today, especially in Philly, right?
It's just bizarre, man. Just bizarre. But look, I agree with you. I like Matthew Stafford when he's getting blitzed. I think when you if it comes down to quarterbacks making quick decisions, I like Matthew Stafford doing that. I think that's something that he will thrive on. I think that he and Nacua and he and Kupp are on the same page. And you mentioned it, D-Mac, I think a kind of an unsung piece of this, something that they really haven't had the ability to use for much of the season, is Tyler Higbee. Tyler Higbee is back. He was one of the few guys that did play in week 18. I think you're going to see him tonight have an impact on this game. I don't know if he's going to have 10 catches and a touchdown or anything crazy like that, but I think he's going to pick up some big first downs. You can only take, just like we were talking about with the Rams trying to deal with Jefferson. Okay, what does that leave with Addison? And who does that leave on TJ Hawkinson? Eventually, somebody's going to get a favorable matchup. I'm not so sure that person for the Rams side isn't Tyler Higbee. And we know that Tyler Higbee and Matthew Stafford have a connection that certainly works for them. So I'm optimistic there. Puka's going to have a night. Cooper Kupp might have to go back a little bit in the Wayback Machine and conjure up a playoff performance like we've seen him have in the past. Demarcus Robinson, you're going to get what you're going to get. Maybe you hit a big one down the field to 2-2. But when it comes to Matthew Stafford finding somebody, I really like that. I don't think you're going to beat him pre-snap. I think that he's always going to be one step ahead of you right there. It's just whether or not the Rams can cover it just enough to give him the time to do it. That's what we're going to find out.
That's 100% one of the biggest keys right there is, do we have a throwback performance for Cooper Kupp? Does he come alive like they need him to? Because that's going to be a determining factor, not just in this game, but moving forward. And we know that Puka Nacua is a guy that it doesn't matter how good he is, you just don't want to put that workload solely on him because he's a guy who can get banged up. The way he plays that position, he's not going to change for anything. So that's going to be huge. The lack of playmakers for this team is going to really, really affect them long term in this playoff run if they hope to do it. And like I said, I mean, guys like Demarcus Robinson have been very, very quiet, and same with Cooper Kupp. And I think Higbee, I think what we've seen with him during certain seasons where he kind of peaks early, then fades, and then kind of has another peak. I think hopefully the fact that he's missed so much time, you'll get him to peak at the right time, and he can really provide another safety valve for Matthew Stafford. Now, another big one for tonight is third down. I mean, you got to convert on third down, and that's not going to be easy against a Minnesota team that ranks fourth in the league in third down conversion rate at 35.6%. The Rams, they're 24th at 36.8%. The Rams are 4 for 10 on third downs on week 8, which is solid, but you want to get to around 50% in this one to really give yourself a really good offense that is not just going on and off the field, and you're putting your defense out there against this really explosive Vikings offense.
No, I did. You nailed it. And I think that's it. I think it's not just a matter of being good on third down, which is clearly important. It's a matter of keeping your offense on the field so your defense doesn't have to be out there 2/3 of the night. I think time of possession is going to be a big part of this one. And I think the way that you're good on third down is you don't have a bunch of 3rd and 7s and 8s. I think that's what you got to find a way to avoid, is to stay in front of the chains, to stay in good down and distance, to have success on 1st and 2nd down so you don't get into a bunch of 3rd and longs. You get 3rd and 3s, 3rd and 4s. I think they're going to be pretty successful at converting a number of those. But, a team that's got to find a way to convert 3rd and 7s, 3rd and 8s, that's asking a lot. You might be able to get 1 or 2 here or there, but to try to do it regularly, I don't think is a good formula for them. And, that brings us right back to the beginning of this entire conversation, Doug, which is Kyren Williams and what their commitment to running the football and their commitment to having success on 1st and 2nd down. I think it'll be really interesting. This all kind of comes back to right where we started. How do they do in the first quarter? Because we've seen it before where they'll run the ball on 1st down and, it might pick up a yard or 2, and then it's pass, punt, and then it's pass. And it's just all of a sudden it's the passing show. Can Sean McVay really lean on that running game? Can Kyren Williams really give them what they need? It doesn't need to have a bunch of pop plays. He doesn't need to be, Saquon Barkley or Derrick Henry, but can he give them good down and distance on 2nd and 3rd down? I think is going to be incredibly important.
Yeah, I think that if the Rams win this game, you can go and look at the box score, and there's a good chance that Kyren Williams will have had a really good game. 90-plus yards rushing, hopefully over 100 yards rushing. And last season against the Lions in a game that they almost won, you didn't have the best game from Kyren Williams. He had 13 carries for 67 yards. He was banged up a little bit in that one. But one thing I'm looking for tonight is, do we see the Rams run out of more 12 personnel? Because you go back to week 8, you saw more 12 personnel, Kyren Williams having success running there, and you haven't seen very much of that lately. So he had 97 yards on 23 carries in their week 8 win. His long was 17 yards in that one, but that's going to be massive because Kyren Williams contributing in the running game a little bit, in the passing game a little bit. He had 5 catches in the first matchup as well. That's going to do wonders too to keeping that Vikings offense off the field. So look, at the end of the day, yes, you want the role players to step up, but you also need your stars to be stars, and that's how you win in the playoffs.
Yeah, no, stars are going to need to be. Matthew Stafford needs to be great tonight. Puka Nacua needs to be great tonight. Jared Verse is going to have a couple of sacks tonight. You're going to have to turn the ball over or get the ball turned over, force a couple of turnovers, or at least one, or at least win the turnover battle. Your best players need to be your best players to win games like this, especially under weird circumstances, unfortunate circumstances like there are right now.
Absolutely. And then coming up next, we got some predictions, some more keys. That's coming up next on Locked On Rams.
From big upsets to game-winning drives, the NFL playoffs are better with FanDuel, because right now, if you are a new customer, all you have to do is bet $5 and you'll get $200 in bonus bets. That's a guarantee. Guaranteed. That's $200 in bonus bets. Win or lose, the FanDuel app gives you everything you need for live bets, same game parlays, and so much more. And, you keep checking, right? Go to FanDuel right now and take a look, because the game in SoFi had the Rams as a 1.5-point dog. Now, all of a sudden, we're back in Arizona. They are 3.5. So that's something that you're going to want to see. It's obviously moving all the time. FanDuel.com is where you can go to do that. FanDuel.com to join today, and you will get your $200 in bonus bets with that start. That's FanDuel.com. Make this playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL.
And welcome back to Locked On Rams. Thank you for making Locked On Rams your first listen every single weekday. Free and available wherever you get your podcast. Locked On Rams, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Okay, so we broke it all down. What they have to do, you need a big game from Kyren Williams. You need the playmakers on offense, some more guys to step up outside of just Puka Nacua. You got to start fast. You got to convert on third down. You got to pressure Sam Darnold. You have to play through the pressure. If you're Matthew Stafford and recognize it, you have to also do well in the red zone. It's kind of one more I want to point out too is kind of the red zone defense for the Rams is going to prove pivotal in this one. The Vikings, in the 3 games they've lost this year, they've gone 2 for 8 in the red zone. The Rams have actually, believe it or not, been one of the better red zone teams in the NFL. The Vikings are 19th in red zone offense on the season, and you saw how much they struggled in their Week 18 loss to the Lions. So I think that's going to be huge as well.
Yeah, I think so. I think they need to score touchdowns when they're in there, not just get points, but score touchdowns. I don't think this is going to come down to, who can make the most field goals over the course of the game. But as I started thinking about it, Doug, I do think something that's kind of trending in the Rams' direction, or at least something that the Rams can feel better about today or this week than they could have maybe a couple of weeks ago, is Josh Carty made a couple of bombs in that game against Seattle, a 57-yarder, a 58-yarder, and they were both true. They were both just piped down the middle. So, maybe that gives Sean McVay a little bit of another weapon to use as far as his play calling goes, knowing that they can try to kick some 50-plus yard field goals. You and I have talked about it all season long, like just, hey, make everything under 50 and we'll take that and just move from there. And it wasn't as easy as all that. There was a long stretch where even the sub 50, even the 45 and under stuff really kind of was a bit of a hit and miss. We saw a doink go in to win a game last night, but that the Rams are coming into this game with their kicker on a heater is very good news for them.
Absolutely. That's going to be huge. Joshua Carty, I think that's why it was so big for that game, to, even though you had already clinched your division, you're resting your starters, to have him have that confidence where he's not just making makeable kicks, he's making 57, 58 yarders.
Yeah.
That is going to really, really be huge for this team tonight, especially against a Vikings team that is going to really try to do whatever they can to get him on the field, right? So I totally agree with that one. And I think too, like I said, Sam Darnold, this Vikings team, they haven't been great in the red zone. They're 20th in points per red zone trip. He has 3 red zone interceptions. So that's when the field kind of gets tight and gets smaller, that's when you have really an opportunity to buckle down and keep them out. But as far as predictions go, look, this is a tough one. I will admit the Glendale road game, home game thing is something that is a factor. I mean, as far as the line goes, it didn't move it too much. I think 1 point last time I checked. But I do think that if there is a team with veterans and coaches and the culture to kind of withstand it, I do trust the Rams in that one. But let's not forget, this is a 14-win Vikings team.
That's it, Doug. Yeah. That's it to me. Like, this is not the Rams had a home game and it got moved and everything that's going on in the city. So you got a 14-win team playing against a 10-win team. You got a 14-win team that was a bad half away from being the number 1 seed overall. That's the team that you get in the first round. And, oh, by the way, you don't even get to play them at home. You got to play them in almost like a bowl game environment where it's a neutral site where, and I would suspect the Rams have more fans than the Vikings, but I don't know how many people are going to be there and how much passion there's going to be in the building. This is something that you absolutely have to create amongst your own team, amongst yourselves, amongst your own staff and players. This is a tall task. I'm hopeful that the Rams can win. I would like to see them win. But what was already a real big ask, beating a team, a 14-win wild card team, now all of a sudden you don't even get the benefit of getting to have it at home. It is a tall order for the Rams tonight.
A tall order, no doubt. I do think that the playoff switch is going to be fully turned on for Matthew Stafford, though. I think
I
that
hope so.
Stafford is going to be sharp. I think he's going to handle the blitz well like he did in their first matchup. I think that Puka Nacua, he's a big game player. I think Kyron Williams is healthier this time around. I think that the defense is going to do just enough. I got the Rams winning 27-23 in this one. And you bring this one home. And look, I just think that Sam Darnold, the last game I saw from him, at some point, guys are who they are, and we've had late bloomer quarterbacks in this league. And Geno Smith for the Seahawks, right? He was a guy that everyone's like, "Oh, he totally figured it out," right? Geno Smith struggled on, and then at the end of the day, he kind of was a mix between the guy who we thought he was and the better version. I think that Sam Darnold is better than the version that, of course, he was with the Jets and the Panthers and worse organizations. But I think that, yeah, at the end of the day, he's going to regress just enough, and the Rams are going to play well enough to win this game.
If the Rams can speed up Darnold, they will win. If they don't, they will not. If Sam Darnold has time, the Rams will lose. If Sam Darnold has to make quick decisions, the Rams will win. I know it's simple. It sounds simple at least, and much easier said than done. But if they can make him make quick decisions, I think the Rams win this game.
I agree. I think that's what it's going to come down to. Can you force Darnold into making plays? Force him to. You want him seeing ghosts by the second quarter if you are this Rams defense. But it's going to be a great game. Of course, the Rams, hey, say what you want about this team, but last year, wild card round, Saturday Night Football. This round, Monday Night Football. NFL loves the Rams as far as big primetime games, and it's going to be an exciting one to cap off wild card weekend. But I got the Rams, baby. But that's going to do it for this episode of Locked On Rams. My name is Doug McCain. You can follow me on X and Instagram at DMAC_LA, and you can follow the People's Champ, Mr. Travis Rogers, at Travis Rogers. And until next time, whose house? It's Locked On Rams house.